So this story happened about 11 years ago. I was a senior in high school at the time, but it is the single most mind-boggling thing that I've ever experienced. It's also important to note that it happened in mid-December. I'm from Iowa, and the winters here get cold at night. Like, if you get stuck outside, you will die of cold. That, plus the snowfall, makes everything dead silent. You can hear anything and everything inside the house, and even immediately outside of it. Well, me and my best friend were hanging out in my family's walkout basement, just having a boring winter night playing video games. We were also the only ones home. The reason it was just us is because my mother went from work straight to a bar to grab a few drinks with coworkers, so me and my friend thought it would be a good idea to break into the family wine and live a little. As we were sitting there opening up the first bottle, I hear the door to the garage open and slam shut. I immediately go, "Oh shit," and start looking for places to hide the bottle. My friend then says,
I thought you said your mom was supposed to be out all night.
She was?
I replied. I then hear a few heavy stomps and hear my mother yell out.
Hey, anyone home?
I yell back up the stairs.
Yup, just hanging out in the basement.
I hear a few more steps move from the garage door towards the stairs and she yells out again.
Can you come help me with something? I need you up here.
I reply back while frantically trying to find a good place to hide the wine bottle.
Yep, give me just a minute.
Then there was silence for about 20 seconds.
Anyone down there with you?
She yelled back in a more concerned, serious tone, in a voice that was slightly off from my mother's. This was the first thing that told me something wasn't right. Our family never cared if anyone was over, as our house was a very open house to all family and friends, and the voice, it was just wrong. Like, it sounded like my mother's, but it was missing something that I couldn't put my finger on. Weirded out, I replied back,
Just, Colton.
After I yelled that back to her, I found a good place to hide the bottle and began walking up the stairs to the next level. Now, as I was walking up the steps, I couldn't help but feel the overbearing silence of the house and the slight electric twinge that something isn't right. When I got to the top of the steps, I look over to where the door to the garage is and also the kitchen right next to it, and it's black, pitch black, as if all the lights were off. There was no moon shining through any windows. I walked over to the kitchen yelling out,
Mom? Where are you?
There was no reply, just silence and darkness. I feel the electric twinge turn into full needles and my adrenaline kicking in full force. I have to get out of here as fast as possible. My mother was not home. I run back down the stairs, grabbing my coat along the way.
Hey, what's wrong?
Colton says.
My mom's not home.
I reply as fast as I can, looking for my truck keys.
What do you mean? You were just talking with her.
I could see the confusion in his face.
There's no one home. We need to leave now.
I took a few steps toward the back door that opened up to the yard, and then I see my dog shaking on the couch and my cat growling behind it. I couldn't leave them. I just knew that if I left them, something would happen.
Are we leaving?
Colton said, still confused as all hell.
No, I can't leave them here alone. Something's really off. I'm gonna call my mom and figure it out.
I pull out my phone and call my mom. She picks up immediately.
Hey, what's going on?
She answers.
Mom, were you just home? I heard you yelling from upstairs, and when I went up there, you weren't up there.
I said frantically, hoping that she was playing a joke.
No, I'm just leaving the bar. I wasn't feeling very well. Are you okay? What do you mean you heard me?
I fill her in on the whole story and she rushes home. Colton and I stayed in the basement with the animals until she got home. But before she did, you could hear something upstairs. Not walking or sitting on things, but a pressure in the air, like a black hole was slowly moving from one room to the next. And the word that I would instinctively describe it as is hungry. When she got home, you could feel the thing leave just as quickly as it came, like an overbearing predatory presence had just flown away. We still have never figured out what the hell was going on, and this is just one story of many unexplainable things that have happened to us. But this is the easiest to write down, and one that I was happy to have a witness. My mother's passed away now, and I've moved away to Arizona. But whenever I go back to Iowa and I see Colton, he still gets creeped out by what had happened. I will never truly know what happened, but I know that whatever it was had my mother's voice. It was evil, and it was hungry.
Alexa, show me the porch camera.
I said as soft as I could. Outside I could hear footsteps. I waited.
Okay.
There he was, standing in the driveway. I panicked. I felt like I couldn't move.
Alexa, lock the front door.
He started moving closer to the house.
I don't know that one.
She's locked the door every night without issue. Why wouldn't she do it now?
Alexa, lock the front door.
I looked at him through the screen. He was inches from the house.
Front door unlocked.
I was living in a rural area in Oklahoma with my mother at a small lake house, and I'm probably 10 to 11 at this time. One night I'm sleeping in my room when I randomly and abruptly wake up for no reason. This was not normal for me, and I felt very uneasy. The only sound I could hear was my mother snoring in the next room on the couch. I rolled over and tried to go back to sleep, but my need to use the bathroom was growing more urgent, so I grudgingly forced myself to head that way. The bathroom's on the other side of the house, around a corner and past the kitchen, and finally down a long hallway on the right. So after I made the trip and finished my business, I flipped off the light switch and started heading back to bed. That's when I heard the distinct click of the light switch, and I saw the glow of the bathroom light in the hallway. Terrified, I slowly turned around to witness the light in the bathroom start clicking on and off. Finally, it shut completely off. In the dark of the hallway, my eyes began to make out a white shape near the end of the hall. It was around my size and crouched to the floor. At this point, I'm frozen to the spot as my mind begins realizing that no one else is home except for my mom and myself. Then the white shape began whispering in a quiet man's voice.
Help me. I'm lost.
I remember wanting to scream for my mom, but I couldn't, and instead I barely said, before this thing starts running at me on what sounded like all fours. I quickly ran through the kitchen and around the corner before running to my sleeping mother, shaking her awake, and my mother's eyes going from dazed to alert in an instant. She asked me what was going on, and I saw her eyes look over my shoulder before she screamed. Remembering her screams still makes my blood run cold. Never had I heard pure terror like that in my life, even to this day. She grabs me by the arms and pulls me into my room and slams the door. She holds me in her arms with her back pressed against the door as we listen. It sounded like this thing was running around in circles in the kitchen. We could hear hands and feet slapping against the tile. The kitchen had a sliding glass door to the outside, which sounded like it was thrown open, then slammed. We sat there horrified until daybreak. I was sent to my grandmother's in the next town for a while after that and never set foot in that house again. Years later, my mother said she went walking around the property after the incident and came across a small burial site with 3 headstones that each belonged to children from the early 1900s. Freaks me out because what I heard that night was a man's voice, but it was so unnatural. My mom still will not tell me what she saw behind me and what it was that made her scream. She tells me she's afraid it will know we're talking about it and it will come back. This is the first of many weird things that have happened in my life. My daughter woke me up around 11:50 last night. My wife and I had picked her up from her friend Sally's birthday party, brought her home, and put her to bed. My wife went into the bedroom to read while I fell asleep watching the Braves game.
Daddy,
She whispered, tugging my shirt sleeve.
guess how old I'm going to be next month?
I don't know, Beauty.
I said as I slipped on my glasses.
How old?
She smiled and held up 4 fingers. It's 7:30 now. My wife and I have been up with her for almost 8 hours. She still refuses to tell us where she got them.
I'm not gonna lie, this is the most amount of times I've ever said daddy in my entire life, and it's all in the span of like, I don't know, like a couple minutes. What the fuck?